You are already overpaid for what you do here, Gareth. I was sitting in his executive office, holding a printed 3-page salary comparison document that I had spent 3 hours researching over the weekend. My hands were trembling because, even at 48 years old, with over 2 decades of professional experience, I have always hated workplace confrontation. But after 4 relentless years of maintaining the entire technical infrastructure at Pinnacle Corporate Solutions, I had finally gathered the courage to ask Chadwick Thorne for a $12,000 annual raise. $12,000. That breaks down to exactly $1,000 a month, my monthly grocery bill, health insurance premiums, and property taxes on my modest suburban house. Chadwick Thorne, the executive managing director of Pinnacle Corporate Solutions, leaned back in his Italian leather ergonomic chair that cost more than I earned in 2 full paychecks. He broke into a booming laugh that echoed across his polished hardwood floor as though I had just delivered a hilarious punchline. I mean, seriously, Gareth, where did you harvest these bizarre numbers? Chadwick tossed my compensation report onto his mahogany desk. Glassdoor and those arbitrary websites are completely disconnected from real-world business economics. You are a senior data compliance analyst here, Gareth. You are not running the enterprise. The painful irony, of course, was that I was running the enterprise. My name is Gareth Vance. I am 48 years old, and for 4 straight years, I had been suffocating inside Pinnacle Corporate Solutions. Pinnacle is a mid-sized consulting firm headquartered in Maryland that helps commercial healthcare networks and state agencies interpret massive compliance data sets. I hold a master's degree in statistics and quantitative analysis with advanced mastery of Python, SQL, database management, and proprietary analytics architecture. I am the quiet professional who gets things done so seamlessly that leadership forgets how much technical heavy lifting is required. When major clients encountered critical system errors, they emailed me directly at my desk because they knew I would stay late, debug the proprietary code, and resolve their operational emergencies before sunrise. Before I take you deeper into how this disaster unfolded, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and drop a comment below letting me know where you are watching from today. If you have ever given years of your life to an ungrateful employer, your story matters, and I want to hear it. As I sat there watching Chadwick laugh at my compensation request, a quiet, decisive snap occurred inside my chest. It was the irreversible snapping of a rubber band stretched past its limit for 4 long years. The national market rate for a senior compliance analyst with my skill set is between $78,000 and $85,000, I stated evenly. My current annual base salary is $62,000. I am being underpaid by more than 20% relative to regional metrics. Market rate, Chadwick repeated dryly. Gareth, you need to understand corporate reality. We are not Google, we are a dedicated family business. Pinnacle Corporate Solutions was founded by Chadwick's uncle in 1987. While half of the executive team shared corporate lineage, Pinnacle was hardly a small shop. We employed 43 full-time personnel and managed multi-million-dollar government compliance contracts. I understand our structure, Chadwick, I replied. However, I have not received a merit-based salary adjustment in 3 years. You were reclassified to senior analyst 18 months ago, with a 2% base increase. Chadwick countered sharply. That is still an increase. Chadwick, I personally trained the last 3 technical analysts you hired, I reminded him. I cover client deliverables for Cynthia Ross whenever she takes leave, and I step in every Friday when Jason Miller fails to deliver his analytics modules. When our reporting database crashed in February, I worked 36 continuous hours to rebuild the proprietary data pipelines from scratch. You performed the duties you were hired to execute, Chadwick snapped back. Look, Gareth, everyone wants more money, but let us look at personal realities. You are 48 years old, you live alone in a quiet house, and your domestic expenses are minimal. It is not as if you are supporting a growing family. That sentence hit me like a slap. What did my domestic life have to do with the quantifiable economic value of my labor? Furthermore, under federal labor standards, such as the Age Discrimination in Employment Act, Evaluating mature professionals through personal assumptions touches upon systemic age bias. My private domestic arrangements have zero relevance to my performance metrics or market value, I said quietly. It is relevant to department budget allocation, Chadwick insisted. Cynthia Ross is supporting 3 children and managing a residential mortgage. Jason Miller is getting married next spring. They face genuine financial burdens. Cynthia Ross, the senior manager whose complex spreadsheet formulas I had been fixing for 2 years. Jason Miller, the junior associate who routinely spent 2 hours at lunch and panicked at 9 p.m. every Thursday. I should have stood up and walked out right then. Instead, I sat motionless, staring down at my printed market research. Look, Gareth, Chadwick said, softening his tone patronizingly. You are a reliable worker, and we appreciate your loyalty. But demanding a 19% salary spike is unrealistic. Perhaps we can reevaluate your compensation during the next annual review cycle. Next year. It was always pushed to next year. I slowly stood up. Thank you for your time, Chadwick. Do not look so defeated, Gareth, he called out with a complacent smirk. At your age, stability is worth far more than chasing risky corporate promises. I walked back to my desk in a strange numbness. My cubicle was in the far rear corner, next to the printer that jammed on every third job. I had occupied that desk for 4 years, watching younger managers move into corner offices while I organized their onboarding manuals. That evening, I drove home to my quiet house, made black coffee, and opened my personal laptop. I spent 3 hours updating my LinkedIn profile, detailing every enterprise system I had built, every regulatory audit I had passed, and every proprietary data pipeline I had architected. Over 4 years, I had managed technical compliance for client portfolios valued at over $2 million. I had engineered the automated verification dashboard that secured Pinnacle's contract with the Maryland Department of Health. Furthermore, under Title 17 of the United States Code, Section 106, the custom analytical scripts and automated data workflows I had created were proprietary frameworks requiring specialized knowledge to maintain. I checked the box enabling LinkedIn's Open to Work setting for recruiters, closed my laptop, and went to sleep. When I opened my phone the following morning at 6:15 a.m., I had received 11 direct recruitment messages from corporate headhunters. I sat at my desk, drinking office coffee, pretending to examine Jason Miller's error-ridden compliance models, while scanning messages on my phone. Corporate recruiters from major national firms were reaching out, eagerly offering to discuss senior-level technical positions. Dear Gareth, one message read from a senior talent partner. I reviewed your background in complex healthcare data systems. We are recruiting a principal data operations lead for Coastline Health Systems. Your proprietary architecture background is precisely what our leadership team requires. Principal data operations lead, not a secondary assistant, a principal enterprise lead. I was processing the message when Chadwick Thorne walked past my cubicle. Morning, Gareth. Are we feeling more realistic about our department goals today? Yes, Chadwick, I replied. I have a much clearer perspective today. Excellent, Chadwick said, setting project folders on my desk. Rebuild Jason Miller's client deck before his 2 o'clock presentation. During lunch, I walked out to the parking garage and called Melanie Vasquez, executive recruiter for Coastline Health Systems. Gareth, thank you for taking my call, Melanie said over speakerphone. Coastline is launching a multi-state enterprise integration project. We need a senior professional who understands data architecture, federal compliance mandates, and automated reporting systems. The position offers full remote flexibility, and the targeted salary range is between $120,000 and $150,000. $120,000 to $150,000. Based on your master's degree and decades of analytical experience, I would place your starting compensation at $135,000, Melanie explained. Would you be available for a formal technical interview this Thursday at noon? I will make myself available, I confirmed. By Friday evening, my calendar was transformed into a covert operation. I scheduled recruiter calls during commutes, conducted video interviews from my parked car, and took calls in stairwells. Every single recruiter quoted base compensation packages starting well above my current salary. Most offered starting figures $40,000 to $50,000 higher than Pinnacle paid me. My technical interview with Coastline went extraordinarily well. Within 2 hours, Melanie called back to confirm that Coastline's vice president of operations wanted to move directly to a final executive offer review. On Friday afternoon at 3:30 p.m., my phone buzzed with an incoming call from an unfamiliar district code. I stepped out to the quiet building courtyard. Gareth Vance, my name is Julian Cross, Managing Director at Titan Global Advisory. Titan Global Advisory was a premier international consulting firm operating executive offices across 12 countries. I will be direct, Gareth, Julian Cross began. We are expanding our East Coast enterprise practice and urgently require a senior director of data strategy and systems architecture. We need someone who can lead high-stakes regulatory compliance frameworks, oversee database integrations, and manage technical teams. Your portfolio of work is outstanding. Senior Director of Data Strategy. I had spent 4 years being told at Pinnacle that I was not qualified to manage a small team. The position is fully remote with quarterly domestic travel, Julian continued. The baseline salary for this director placement is $240,000, with annual performance bonuses averaging 15 to 20%, executive stock options, 4 weeks paid sabbatical, and full health coverage. Are you open to exploring this opportunity? $240,000. I stood outside in the cold afternoon breeze, watching administrative workers walk past, completely unaware that my career reality was being reshaped. Yes, Julian, I said, my voice firm. I am very interested. Superb, Julian replied. Can you meet with our executive selection committee via video conference this coming Monday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern? I will be there, I answered. On Monday morning at 10 a.m., I took a personal leave morning and conducted my executive panel interview with Titan Global Advisory from my home office. When you are no longer begging for scraps, when you understand your true enterprise value, the dynamic of an interview completely shifts. I spoke with deep authority about enterprise data integrity, regulatory compliance mandates, automated workflow pipelines, and risk mitigation strategies. On Wednesday afternoon, Melanie Vasquez from Coastline Health Systems called to deliver a formal written offer. $135,000 base salary, full remote flexibility, 4 weeks paid vacation, and comprehensive health benefits. We would like a decision by Friday, Gareth, Melanie said. Thank you, Melanie. I will review the paperwork carefully, I replied. Then on Thursday afternoon at 4 o'clock, Julian Cross called from Titan Global Advisory. Gareth, we were exceptionally impressed by your technical mastery and strategic vision, Julian announced. We are extending a formal executive offer for the Senior Director of Data Strategy position. We are offering a base salary of $280,000 per year. In addition, you will receive a 20% annual performance bonus, an executive stock option package vesting over 4 years, 5 weeks of leave, full health coverage, and a $2,000 home office allowance. $280,000 per year. I had to grip the edge of my steering wheel to anchor myself. $280,000. That was more than 4 times my current annual earnings at Pinnacle. Julian, that is an extraordinary offer, I answered. You have earned it, Gareth. We will set your official start date for Monday the 18th. Welcome to Titan Global Advisory. I sat in my parked car for 20 minutes after the call ended, staring out at the horizon as tears of relief welled in my eyes. $280,000. I drove back to Pinnacle Corporate Solutions, walked past Cynthia Ross and Jason Miller, and glanced at Chadwick Thorne's glass corner office. For the first time in 4 years, the illusion of their authority over me had completely vanished. I sat down at my desk and drafted my formal resignation letter. On Monday morning at 8:30 a.m., I arrived at the office early. I sat at my desk and carefully reviewed the resignation letter I had printed on clean bond paper. Dear Chadwick, please accept this document as formal notification that I am resigning from my position as Senior Data Compliance Analyst at Pinnacle Corporate Solutions. My final operational day will be Friday the 25th. I am committed to executing a thorough, professional transition of my responsibilities over the next 2 weeks. Sincerely, Gareth Vance at 8:45 a.m., I saw Chadwick Thorne walk into his office. I gave him 15 minutes to settle in, then walked over, knocked firmly on his glass door, and stepped inside. Chadwick, do you have a few minutes? I asked quietly. Sure, Gareth. Come inside and close the door, Chadwick said, keeping his eyes glued to his screen. Listen, I need you to prioritize Cynthia's compliance deck today. I walked over to his mahogany desk, set the signed resignation letter directly on the polished wood in front of him, and sat down in the leather chair. I am stepping down. This is my formal 2 weeks' notice. Chadwick stopped typing. He looked down at the paper, then looked up at me, his eyes widening in total disbelief. For 30 full seconds, the office was dead silent. You are quitting? Chadwick asked, his voice dropping an octave. Yes, I replied calmly. My last day with Pinnacle will be Friday the 25th. Why? What happened? Chadwick sat up straight, his defensive reflexes kicking in instantly. Did someone say something to you? Is this about our compensation review 2 weeks ago? It is not about the conversation, Chadwick. It is about the reality of my market value, I answered evenly. I have accepted an executive position with a firm that values my technical expertise appropriately. Chadwick leaned back in his Italian chair, his eyes narrowing as he began running mental calculations. I could see panic flickering behind his corporate facade. He was realizing that he would have to reassign my immense workload and explain my sudden departure to founding partners. Look, Gareth, Chadwick began, adjusting his tie. What kind of compensation numbers are we talking about here? Because if another firm made you an offer, perhaps there is room for internal adjustment. We can negotiate. 2 weeks earlier, hearing those words would have filled me with hope. Now it simply sounded desperate. We are not in the same financial or operational league, Chadwick, I said smoothly. Try me, Gareth, Chadwick pressed, leaning forward. What are they offering you? An extra $10,000? $15,000? We can match a reasonable increase. He still did not understand. He still assumed I was trapped within his narrow compensation framework. The compensation package is significantly higher than my current salary, I stated. How much higher? Chadwick demanded, his tone turning agitated. 20,000? 30,000? Come on, Gareth, work with me here. I am not seeking a counteroffer, Chadwick. My decision is finalized. That was the exact moment Chadwick's expression shifted from corporate arrogance to genuine alarm. He realized I was truly leaving. You are serious, he whispered, completely serious. What firm? Chadwick asked sharply. Is it a regional competitor? Because you signed a strict non-compete covenant when you joined Pinnacle. There it was, the corporate threat. I have reviewed my employment documentation thoroughly, Chadwick, I replied calmly. Furthermore, under current Federal Trade Commission guidelines and established labor law precedents regarding non-compete enforceability, broad non-compete clauses that unreasonably restrict an individual's right to pursue their profession are legally unenforceable. Additionally, I have complied fully with all fiduciary duties and corporate governance standards. My new executive role does not violate any enforceable covenant. Chadwick swallowed hard, his cheeks reddening. Gareth, I think you are making a mistake. Transitioning to a new corporate environment at 48 is inherently risky. You have absolute security here at Pinnacle. You are part of our corporate family, a corporate family that told me I was overpaid when I asked for a fair market adjustment. I reminded him quietly. Chadwick flinched. What if we revisited your base compensation immediately? I can speak with executive leadership today. Now that I was walking out the door, the budget constraints had evaporated. I am not interested in revisiting compensation discussions. Chadwick, I stood up. My last day will be Friday the 25th. Just think about it over lunch, Gareth, Chadwick called out as I opened the door. I walked back to my workstation feeling lighter than I had in 4 years. Over the next 48 hours, news of my resignation spread across Pinnacle. On Wednesday morning, Cynthia Ross cornered me near the break room coffee machine. Gareth, everyone is saying you accepted a remote executive position. Is that true? What is the compensation package like? It is a strong professional opportunity, Cynthia, I replied politely. Is the pay significantly better? She pressed, lowering her voice. I simply smiled and said, There are excellent opportunities in the broader market if you possess specialized skills. On Thursday afternoon, Chadwick summoned me back to his office, personally closing the door behind us. Gareth, I met with the founding partners yesterday, Chadwick began, adopting a humble tone. We are prepared to offer you an immediate salary adjustment to $75,000 per year. In addition, we will fast-track your promotion to lead systems coordinator, which includes your own private office.
$75,000.
A $13,000 raise, exactly $1,000 more than the $12,000 increase I had requested 4 weeks earlier. 2 months ago, that offer would have felt like a triumph. Now, it felt like an insulting afterthought. Thank you for the offer, Chadwick, I replied. However, I have already executed my formal employment contract with my new firm. What if we push the compensation to $80,000? Chadwick insisted, leaning over his desk. That is a 30% salary increase, $80,000. Still $200,000 less than my new base salary at Titan Global Advisory. It is not merely a matter of compensation, Chadwick, I said softly. It is a matter of respect and professional value. You only chose to value my labor when I handed you my resignation. Chadwick slumped back in his chair, a look of utter defeat washing over his face. During my final 7 days at Pinnacle Corporate Solutions, I spent 7 hours each day systematically documenting my entire operational workflow. I created comprehensive documentation manuals, step-by-step technical guides, data mapping dictionaries, and code annotations for every custom system I had built. As I compiled the transition documentation, the absurd scope of my single-handed workload became painfully evident. I was single-handedly maintaining 3 core SQL databases, executing proprietary algorithmic data transformations, generating automated compliance reports for the Maryland Department of Health, and constantly fixing the broken deliverables of Cynthia Ross and Jason Miller. No wonder Chadwick Thorne was in a state of panic. I had been serving as the single technical point of failure for the entire department, keeping multi-million-dollar accounts operational while being paid $62,000 a year. On my final Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock, I packed up 4 years of personal belongings into a single cardboard box. Chadwick stood in his executive office doorway, watching me quietly as I taped the box. Are you completely certain about this, Gareth? He asked softly. I am entirely certain, Chadwick, I answered, picking up the box. If things do not pan out, you know you always have a place here at Pinnacle, he added. Thank you, Chadwick. Best of luck with the department, I said, offering a polite head nod before turning away. I walked out of Pinnacle Corporate Solutions at 5:47 p.m. on a crisp Friday evening, feeling a profound sense of closure and executive liberation. On Monday morning at 8:30 a.m., I officially commenced my executive tenure at Titan Global Advisory as Senior Director of Data Strategy. The contrast in professional culture was staggering. Titan's corporate onboarding process was a masterclass in executive excellence. During my first 3 days, I was provided with top-tier technology hardware, a dedicated administrative coordinator, and direct executive IT support. The firm deposited a $2,000 technology allowance directly into my account to equip my home executive office. My executive colleagues treated me with immediate, profound professional respect. They welcomed my specialized statistical expertise as a vital strategic asset. When my first bi-weekly executive paycheck hit my bank account, I stared at the digital statement in silent awe. A single bi-weekly pay deposit was larger than 3 full months of net salary at Pinnacle Corporate Solutions. My financial anxiety completely evaporated. However, the corporate story did not end with my seamless transition. 3 weeks into my new executive position at Titan Global Advisory, I was sitting in my quiet home office on a Tuesday afternoon, reviewing a data migration strategy for a major national healthcare client. My private phone rang. Displaying an incoming number from Pinnacle's corporate district, I recognized the number immediately. It was Chadwick Thorne calling from his office. I picked up the phone and answered in a calm executive tone. Hello, Chadwick. Gareth. Thank you so much for taking my call, Chadwick blurted out, his voice sounding breathless and deeply panicked. I hope your new position is going well. Everything is going exceptionally well, Chadwick, I replied. How can I assist you today? Gareth, we are facing an absolute operational crisis here, Chadwick confessed, dropping all pretense. The Maryland Department of Health just issued an urgent audit request for their quarterly compliance data set. The regulatory presentation is scheduled for next Friday, and the raw data is completely scrambled. Cynthia Ross tried to run the automated dashboard you built, but she erased the core data joins. Jason Miller tried to fix the Python scripts, but he corrupted the entire staging database. I remained silent on the line, listening to his frantic explanation. Gareth, nobody here understands the underlying proprietary code architecture you built. Chadwick continued frantically. The state regulatory board is threatening to suspend our compliance contract if we fail to deliver the audit reports by Friday afternoon. That contract is worth $1.8 million to Pinnacle. Chadwick, I created exhaustive technical manuals and code documentation before my departure, I reminded him calmly. I know, and your documentation is flawless. Chadwick pleaded. But Cynthia and Jason do not possess the advanced statistical modeling skills to execute the scripts. We are completely stuck, Gareth. The entire client relationship is hanging by a thread. I sipped my fresh black coffee, leaning back in my leather chair, listening to the man who had laughed in my face 3 weeks earlier. I am calling to ask if you would be open to executing an emergency consulting agreement with Pinnacle. Chadwick begged, his voice trembling. Just 10 or 15 hours this week to fix the data joins and run the regulatory dashboard. Name your consulting rate, Gareth. Name your price. We will pay whatever hourly rate you demand. We cannot afford to lose the only professional who knows how to operate this system. Name your price. We cannot afford to lose the only person who knows. The exact scenario from the original corporate dynamic had come full circle. The arrogant executive who had dismissed my $12,000 raise request was now begging on his knees, offering blank checks to salvage his collapsing department. What is the exact technical scope required, Chadwick? I asked quietly. Just fix the database joins, rerun the Python scripts, and validate the health department compliance deck. Chadwick rattled off rapidly. Please, Gareth, I am begging you. If this audit fails, founding leadership will hold me directly accountable. Under corporate governance regulations and executive fiduciary standards, Chadwick was facing severe executive oversight for creating a single point of failure vulnerability in his department by underpaying and alienating key technical talent. I will examine my current executive schedule and text you my decision. Chadwick, I said professionally. Please, Gareth, let me know as soon as possible, he implored before hanging up. After concluding the call, I sat in my quiet home office for several long contemplative minutes. I looked out the window at the green trees swaying in the afternoon breeze, feeling a profound sense of inner peace. I had the complete technical power to resolve Chadwick's crisis. I could easily log into Pinnacle's staging environment after hours, repair Jason Miller's broken SQL joins, execute the Python scripts, and salvage Pinnacle's $1.8 million state contract. I could charge Chadwick $200 an hour and make several $1,000s in a single weekend. It would be the polite thing to do. However, true executive self-worth requires establishing unshakable boundaries. For 4 years, Chadwick Thorne had exploited my quiet dedication, underpaid my technical expertise, mocked my financial aspirations, and treated my labor as disposable. Helping him cover up his management incompetence would only reinforce the toxic corporate dynamic that underpays dedicated professionals. Furthermore, under my new employment contract with Titan Global Advisory, executing external consulting work for a regional firm required formal corporate compliance review to ensure no conflict of interest existed. I picked up my phone, opened a text window, and typed a clean, professional, and definitive response to Chadwick Thorne. Dear Chadwick, after conducting a thorough review of my current executive commitments and corporate compliance obligations at Titan Global Advisory, I am unable to undertake external consulting engagements at this time. I recommend retaining a specialized third-party data recovery firm to assist your team with the audit deliverables. I wish Pinnacle the best of luck with the state compliance presentation. Sincerely, Gareth Vance. I hit send, Within 2 minutes, my phone began ringing violently. It was Chadwick calling back. I let it ring. He called a second time immediately after. I touched the screen and declined the call, muting the device. I later learned through a trusted former colleague that the outcome at Pinnacle was catastrophic. Without my technical architecture, Cynthia Ross and Jason Miller failed to deliver the compliant regulatory dataset to the Maryland Department of Health by the mandatory Friday deadline. The state regulatory board issued a formal notice of non-compliance, placed Pinnacle's contract under administrative review, and imposed heavy financial penalties on the firm under state procurement rules. The founding partners initiated an immediate corporate audit of Chadwick Thorne's department. During the executive audit, leadership discovered that Chadwick had systematically underpaid senior technical personnel, mismanaged departmental bonus allocations, and failed to establish operational redundancy. To prevent complete operational collapse, Pinnacle was forced to hire an expensive external IT consulting firm, paying 3 full-time technical contractors a combined billing rate of over $400,000 per year to replace the exact workload I had executed for $62,000. 6 months after my departure, Chadwick Thorne was quietly stripped of his managing director authority and reassigned to an administrative oversight role with zero departmental control. Around that same time, I received a sudden LinkedIn notification. It was a direct message from Jillian Palmer, Pinnacle's HR director. Dear Gareth, I hope you are thriving in your executive career. Pinnacle Corporate Solutions is currently restructuring our data operations division. We have established a new executive role, Chief Data Scientist and Enterprise Systems Lead, with a compensation package of $160,000 per year. Executive leadership immediately suggested reaching out to you. We would be honored to discuss bringing you back to lead our enterprise strategy. I read the message, smiled softly to myself, and archived the notification without typing a single response. Some corporate doors, once closed, should remain locked forever. Today, I have been serving as Senior Director of Data Strategy at Titan Global Advisory for nearly 2 years. My strategic division has expanded. My compensation continues to grow through executive equity grants, and I work alongside brilliant, respectful professionals who value technical mastery. Here is the vital lesson I want every mature professional watching this video to understand. Corporate loyalty without proportional compensation and mutual respect is nothing more than self-sabotage. Never allow an arrogant manager, an underpaying company, or a toxic corporate culture to define your economic worth. They will pay you just enough to keep you from leaving while extracting every ounce of your talent, only to act shocked when you realize your true value. Your skill set, your experience, and your professional integrity belong to you. When you document your achievements, maintain your technical edge, and step boldly onto the open market, you reclaim total control over your career destiny. Sometimes the ultimate corporate revenge is not screaming, arguing, or causing chaos. The ultimate revenge is simply knowing your worth, securing the compensation you deserve, and watching from afar as the people who undervalued you scramble to replace what they so foolishly threw away. If you found value in this story, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who needs to be reminded of their true professional worth. And tell me in the comments below, have you ever been told you were overpaid, only to prove your employer completely wrong? I read your comments, and I look forward to hearing your stories. Thank you for watching.